Yo. Today is still January the 26th, 2025. It's a big slate on the card tomorrow as far as NBA. So I figured I'd try to get ahead of some of these lines while watching a little bit of NFL and a little bit of NBA. We only have one game in the NBA for today. So we'll do a quick recap. I'm going to go through about five or six games on this show, and then I will be live in the morning as always, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time for people who are interested in joining the live show. But I do have about 4 bets that I've made already, and I need them to be winners, man. I do need them to be winners because today was not a good day. It was not a good day. Shout out to my Commanders. We fought as hard as we possibly could have. Just some self-inflicted injuries, which led to it being a very unprofitable day. Jalen Hurts under his pass attempts for 25. He went up and over. Austin Eckler receiving yards also was just a hard bet to cash it today. I mean, the Eagles defense was locked in from the beginning. And hats off to the Eagles. I mean, the defense made Jaden Daniels work for everything. That's what I saw. I saw the Commanders turning the ball over on special teams, on offense, which led Jalen Hurts and the Eagles dominate time of possession. Jalen Hurts passed the ball. The Eagles ran the football, all of that. So the game script kind of messed up the 2 plays on Jalen Hurts under his pass attempts and Austin Eckler over his receiving yards. But we've won more than we lost with those 2 bets, so I'll take it. As far as Portland team total under 105.5, I still think it was a good bet. They end up getting to 108 points in the game. So I do go 0-3 on the day. I need to make it back. Yesterday we had a green day. Now we back to red. So definitely need to make that back. And let's see how we can do so. So let's jump into it, man. First game we got up is the Lakers and the Charlotte Hornets. This line opened with the Lakers laying 6 points. It looks like it's still about 6 right now based on what I'm seeing. Total 222 looks like open 218 up to 222. So some money has come in here on the over, and the spread is actually coming down. It looks like it's down to about 5.5 now, 5.5, 6, depending on where you're shopping. So we checked the injury report. It looks like Bron and Anthony Davis are supposed to play. Cody Martin is already ruled out, and Rui Hachimura is the only Laker that's on the on the injury report listed as questionable. The Lakers did get Jared Vanderbilt back in that last game against Golden State, so he should be out there for the Lakers as well. So I'm looking at this matchup. First thing I always do is check the head-to-head, like see what that looks like. The Lakers have won 3 straight against the Charlotte Hornets. They've won 8 of the last 10 as well. They did play earlier this season. The Lakers won that game 121-118, but they didn't cover. They were actually laying 13 points as a home favorite, and that game did go up and over the total of 228. So now we got a Laker team on the first leg of a back-to-back. They do got a game against the Philadelphia 76ers tomorrow. It's the first game on the East Coast, second of at least a 5-game road trip, and they've won 3 straight. They've covered all 3. They've actually won 5 of their last 7 games. So don't look now. The Lakers actually playing a little bit of good basketball. We'll see how consistent they could be on this Eastern Conference road trip, especially against non-conference games, and we'll talk non-conference teams. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So on the Charlotte side, this team is 6-3 against the spread in their last 10 games. 3rd straight home game for them. They don't play again until Wednesday after they play the Lakers tomorrow on Monday, and they're coming off of probably the biggest one of the season for them against the Pelicans. They beat the Pelicans by 31 points in their last game. So the first thing that jumps out to me in this game before I even look into like any numbers or anything is I know the Lakers to be a non-trustworthy team on the road when laying points, especially in non-conference games. It just feels to me like these are the games that the Lakers don't take serious, and the numbers kind of back it up. So the Lakers on the season so far, they're 1-4 straight up and against the spread when they're playing in road games that are non-conference games. The only win that they actually have came against Toronto. They beat Toronto in Toronto by 6. They were laying 9 points in that game, and like I said, didn't cover the spread. They also got losses to the Cleveland Cavaliers. They were a dog in that game. The Detroit Pistons, they were laying points in that game, lost that game outright. The Miami Heat lost that game, got smoked in that game, and then they also lost to the Hawks in this spot as well. The Lakers are actually just 3-8 against the spread when traveling from road to road as well. So second road game, or at least the next road game after previously playing a road game, not a spot you want to take the Lakers in. You look at the Charlotte team. LaMelo has been back for, a few games now, and the Charlotte Hornets have looked a little bit better in the games that he's played in. This Charlotte team, like last 5 games, their numbers are better than they have been for the full season. Mark Williams is playing well. I know that they'll be without Brandon Miller. He's done for the full season. But offensive efficiency, they're top 10. Defensive efficiency, right outside the top 10, they're 11th. And the schedule has been pretty easy, 24th, but they're 16th in pace, playing a lot faster than they normally do. And you got a Laker team, like I said, that just, even though they're playing a little bit better right now, I don't want to discredit my Los Angeles Lakers too much. I'm just not really believing in it. I feel like this is a game where you could see a potential letdown. The Lakers have been playing well. They're 4th defensive rated team over the last 5 games, only allowing about 101.8 points per game, which is number 1 in the NBA. 4th overall in efficiency differential, and they're playing super slow, 27th in pace as well, but that's been against the 21st easiest schedule also. So I look at Charlotte, they're a home dog, they are profitable in this spot, 62.5%, which is a 10-6 record against the spread if they're a home dog. And if I'm playing the game, man, I'm taking the points. I think I am taking the points with the Charlotte Hornets. I do think that they can keep this game competitive. When I look a little bit deeper, I see where the Lakers are scoring the basketball from. It's typically at the rim and in the paint. This is a team that is not a great three-point shooting team. We know that, bottom 10, both in frequency and accuracy as far as shooting three-point shot. They like to score in the paint and at the rim, which is where a lot of their shots come from. Cleveland's defense has been pretty good there as well. So I think the line is moving in the right direction. I would be grabbing a +6 if I wanted to play this one, not laying 6 points with the Lakers on the road, even though they have looked a little better recently. Next game up, we got the Magic and the Heat, and I have bet this one. I do like the Orlando Magic to kind of keep things going here. So I'm looking into the matchup. This line open with the Orlando Magic. Getting a point, laying a point. Like I kind of saw it both ways. You can get this line at a pick right now. It just really kind of depends, on what you like. So maybe this is one you kind of lay off of and see what a number moves to. But we look at the injury report. We'll start with the Orlando Magic side of things, and Gary Harris is out for them. Goga Bitadze has been upgraded to questionable. He had been dealing with a concussion for a while. Jalen Suggs came back in the last game after missing 10 games. He's listed as questionable in this one because he got hurt again. Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner should be a go in this game. In last game, the Orlando Magic played. That was actually the first time that their starting 5 has played in a very, very long time. They got a win against the Detroit Pistons, needed that win against the Detroit Pistons. So now they go on the road, short travel, of course, divisional game against the Miami Heat. Miami will have Jimmy Butler. He should be off he's off the injury report. Well, he's off his suspension and not on the injury report. So he should be back for this game. So it's a very intriguing matchup. This is the 4th meeting of the season between these two teams. Orlando did win the first 2. Miami, if anybody who remember, Miami got I think like a 20-point lead in the second matchup. And then Orlando came back and ended up winning the game by 1 at the buzzer. Miami actually won the last matchup to get some quick revenge because that game was very, very close. I think they played back-to-back in game 2 and game 3. But Orlando kind of smoked the Miami Heat at the beginning of the season when they had a full roster. The most recent matchup was 89-88, which, I mean, 207 points seems like a lot of points, but a lot of points between these two teams. So I kind of lean under as well. I kind of want to see what the Magic offense looks like now that they have Franz and Paulo back, though, before I start playing totals, because last game against Detroit, 2 really good defensive teams, that game does go up and over the total. So anyway, getting into a little bit of what Orlando's been doing. This team is really needing to win in the worst possible way. They're only 3-7 in their last 10 games, 4-6 against the spread. They finally, like I said, got a win against Detroit. That ended a 6-game losing streak for them. And after this game, one of the things I looked at as well is they don't play again until Thursday. They go on the road to play in Portland. So this is the start of a little road trip for them when they go out west. But they got a lot of energy they can exert in this game because they don't play again, like I said, until Thursday. You look at the Miami Heat, kind of Jekyll and Hyde team right now, man. I know Jimmy Butler's coming back, but overall they're just 5-5 straight up in their last 5 games. They're 2-5 against the spread in their last 7 games, 4-6 against the spread in their last 10 games. They had lost back-to-back to Portland and Milwaukee before beating a very, very tanking Brooklyn Nets team. And then they got Cleveland coming to town on Wednesday. So I'm looking into the matchup. The first thing that jumped out to me is, I think about Miami and This is not a good team at all when they're in a point spread range that's within 3. They're only 1-8 against the spread when they're either getting 3 or when they're getting 3 points or they're favored by 3. Orlando, like I said, needing a win in the worst possible way. They have played really, really well not really, really well, but they played great as a road favorite. 6-3 straight up. Also 8-1 to the under as a road favorite, allowing just 98 points per game when they're a road favorite. So getting their horses back, man. When I see 8-1 and they're only giving up 88 points, I think they can come in here and stifle this Miami Heat offense, which isn't that great in my opinion. Orlando, last 5 games, they've been terrible offensively, actually the 3rd worst, and the 22nd in defensive rating. Their defense have been struggling, but getting Suggs back, getting Franz back, I think is going to help in that department. 28th in pace. We know they play super slow. But that has come against the 11th most difficult schedule. Last 5 games, they played a few really good teams. They played Boston, they played Denver, and they played Detroit in their last 5 games, 3 of their last 5 games. You look at Miami, 19th in offensive efficiency, 24th in defensive efficiency last 5 games. They're also playing super slow, 24th in pace, but against a much easier schedule. Last 5 games for them has actually been the 9th easiest schedule. They just beat a Brooklyn team, like we talked about, that's not trying to win. But they lost by 29 to the Bucks. They lost by 9 to the Portland Trail Blazers. And before that, they did get a pretty good win against the San Antonio Spurs. You look at Miami, they're 3-0 to the over as a home dog this season. Defensively, they don't get stops in this spot here. Each of their opponents actually going up and over their team total. Miami also allows about 120 points in those 3 games as a home dog this season. This tells me Orlando should be able to score. And if Orlando is going to be able to score, then sign me up, because I just need Orlando to be able to score. I think, just not outside of all the numbers, Orlando's getting a lot healthier now that Franz is back. He has a few games under his belt. He's coming off a 32-point game against Detroit. Paolo also got about 10 games under his belt now as well. He also scored 32 points against Detroit in their most recent game. And then, you add Jalen Suggs, who is listed as questionable. I'm expecting him to play. We'll see if he plays or not. I think Orlando needs to start stacking wins after dropping 5 straight games. The 10 games that Jalen Suggs missed, they only went 2-8. So they get their horses back, man. I think they're about to start stacking up some more wins. This is a team that, is doing pretty well given everything that they've been through, all the adversity of losing players, either for the full season like Mo, or, for the abdominal injuries that they've had to deal with throughout the season, the concussion to Gogo Batadze, all that. I just think that Miami, until they get rid of Jimmy Butler, I think is an absolute fade. I'll take Miami here on the money line. I do think that they're the right side in this game. All right, so next one up, we got, let's see. We got the Sacramento Kings and the Brooklyn Nets, man. This is a game that I'm not looking towards the spread really much at all. But I do want to talk about the total in this game. So we got a Sacramento Kings team that should be pretty healthy here. And then we got a Brooklyn Nets team. Who knows what's going to happen with this Brooklyn Nets team, man. They arresting people at the last minute, like just very, very weird injury report manipulation type stuff. This total did open at 223 and it's come down to 221.5 already. I do think that this closes a lot lower than what it is right now. And the spread hasn't really moved a lot at all. It opened 10, looks like it's still 10. Does seem like it may be moving to 10.5 on some books, but I think it's about appropriate. Brooklyn, like I said, not trying to win, but they will remain competitive. Ben Simmons is listed as questionable. He was a late scratch in the last game against Miami for a back injury. Who knows if he's going to play? Cam Johnson has already been ruled out, of course, and of course Cam Thomas is not going to play in this game either. I look into this matchup and, I want to play under. If you've been following the show, you know that we've been cashing on Brooklyn team total unders and just the Brooklyn in general to go under. And I think that why would we stop now? Ben Simmons, like I said, who knows if he's going to play. I don't think it's going to really matter. Cam Johnson also ruled out. And Sacramento hasn't even been great defensively. 23rd defensive rated team last 5 games. They're giving up a ton of offensive rebounds. But this is where your defense typically gets better. We just saw the Miami Heat, who have been struggling on defense, come in here and lock up this Brooklyn Nets team, another team that plays very, very similar to Sacramento outside of being able – Sacramento likes to get out and run a little bit more. But Sacramento is in a revenge spot here. The first time that these two teams played early this season in Sacramento actually lost that game, 108-103 at home. They were 10.5-point favorites in that game. back on November the 24th. And that game went under. The total was exactly what this one opened at, 223. You look at this Sacramento team, struggling recently, but they're still 7-3 straight up in their last 10 games. Back-to-back losses against Denver and New York. They've dropped 3 against the spread in a row, and they play in Philly on Wednesday. For this Brooklyn team, 6 straight losses, back-to-back non-coverage against Miami and Phoenix. Brooklyn has actually scored 102 points, hasn't scored more than 102 points in 7 straight games. They're 5-1 to the under in their last 6 games. This is the last game of a 4-game homestand before they play at Charlotte on Wednesday. So situationally, I looked at the last few games that have actually between these two teams have actually been played in Brooklyn. Last 2, Sacramento's 2-1 straight up, 2-1 against the spread. All 3 of the games have actually gone under the total. But get this, the totals have actually stayed under about 36.5 points. Each matchup between Sacramento and Brooklyn in the last 3 games that they played in Brooklyn have all gone under by 33 points or more. The totals, if you go back to the 2019 season, they played 6 times, 5-1 to the under. You got a Nets team that's 14-2 to the under on their team total. If they're a home dog this season, that's been a super profitable trend. And the Kings, they've been double-digit favorites 5 times, 4-1 straight up, 4-1 against the spread, 4-1 to the under. And 4 of their opponents have actually stayed under their team total. This is a game where I think Brooklyn continues to play slow. We know that they're not a fast-paced team. On the full season, they're 3rd slowest pace. Last 5 games, they're also 2nd slowest pace. So Sacramento is probably going to try to run. I think Brooklyn does a pretty good job of slowing them down. I think Sacramento will not have to score as many points to win this one. I like under 221.5. I do expect this total to continue to drop. Maybe even a potential Brooklyn team total under. As that line becomes available as well. All right, next one up. We got the Memphis Grizzlies and the New York Knicks. You know what? I don't really want to talk about this one right now. I got to do a little bit more digging on that one. But I do want to get into this Nuggets and Bulls game. Let's talk Nuggets and Bulls because this is one that I like as well. And if you've been watching the show over the last 2 or 3 weeks, I think it may have been 3 weeks now. I think it's 3 weeks. I've not bet Bulls games. Something that I've really wanted to stay away from. The Bulls are a very sporadic team. You don't really ever really know what you're going to get from them. They can cover a game that they're a dog in, like this one, outright by 3 or 4 points. Or if they're a favorite, like they were against Philly the other day, they can lose the game outright by 10 or 11 points. You just have no idea what to do with this team. They were a team, and we'll talk about it. Let's get into it. So Denver should have a pretty clean injury report. I didn't see anybody pop up on the injury report, and I got to do some double checking, but I didn't see anybody that's going to be out for Denver tomorrow. On the Chicago side, Kobe White is still out. Torrey Craig is still out for this team. So that means Ayo Dosunmu maybe play. We'll see if he plays or not. And I'm looking into the head-to-head matchup. Denver has won back-to-back games against Chicago. Actually, they won 7 of the last 10. And this is just the first meeting of the season, but Denver did win both games last season. Denver was actually red hot before running into Minnesota last game. They were 8-2 straight up and against the spread in their last 10 games, but they never showed up against Minnesota. Never really got off the bus. Coach Mike Malone criticized their effort after the game. And I think they bring it in this one. They lost that game 104 to 133 as a 3.5 point favorite. Minnesota had 100 points before the third quarter ended. It was a really, really poor effort from the Denver Nuggets. This is the second of a 5-game road trip for Denver. On the Chicago side, second game back home for them. They were coming back home against Golden State. They've lost 2 in a row now. They've actually lost 8 of their last 10 games. And large part of it is because their offense has struggled. They're 7-3 to the under last 10, which tells me that the books are continuing to put their totals a tad bit too high. And offensively, like I said, they really struggled to score. Denver, if we look out to even bigger, like farther than, last 10 games, last 15 games, this team is 12-3 straight up. All 12 of their wins have actually come by double digits. They're 11-3 against the spread in their road wins this season. This is a team that when they go on the road, they win by double digits if they win the game. And they typically cover as well. You look at Denver, right? Just what's been going on with them. They're a really good offensive team, second in offensive efficiency last 5 games, third in overall efficiency as well. Even with the 29-point loss to the Minnesota Timberwolves on Saturday, and all that's come against the 12th most difficult schedule. So they have been playing, a pretty difficult strength of schedule as of late as well. Meanwhile, you got a Chicago team that's bottom 5 in offensive rating last 5 games. They're 18th in defensive efficiency, and that's to come against the sixth easiest schedule. Chicago is a team that shoots a bunch of threes, and that's why, in my opinion, they've really struggled to score recently. They shoot a bunch of threes on the season. They're second in frequency, they're 10th in accuracy. But you look a little bit closer into recent form. Last 5 games, they're actually 11th in frequency, so they're shooting fewer threes, and they're 21st in accuracy. So a lot of them not scoring has been the three-point shot. Shooting less than 34% overall from the three-point line last 5 games. They're also not pushing the pace as much as they were earlier in the season. Last 5 games, they're 19th in transition frequency, but on the full season, they're 8th. And their pace is slowed down. This was the top 3 pace team for majority of the season. They're actually, I think, right outside the top 10 over their last 5 games. And Denver is actually pretty good. They're 4th in opponent transition frequency and transition opportunities. So I do think that Denver should be able to slow down Chicago, even if Chicago wants to run here. The biggest advantage that Denver has in this game, in my opinion, is their ability to be able to score at the rim. They're 5th in rim frequency, 4th in accuracy over the last 5 games. Chicago is very, very poor guarding the rim all season. They're 26th in opponent rim frequency. Last 5 games, 19th in opponent rim accuracy. Denver's also continuing to push the pace. Chicago has been struggling to get back in transition. And the other thing I wanted to look at was, how does Denver respond after getting punched in the mouth the way that they did? This Denver Nuggets team is 7-2 straight up, 8-1 against the spread, dating back to 2021 when they've lost their last game by 20 points or more, and they were a favorite in the game. So Denver were a favorite, and they lose by 20. They get smoked. They're 7-2 straight up and 8-1 against the spread, including 5-0 straight up and against the spread since the start of last season. So I like Denver in this spot. I do think it's a double-digit win. I typically do not bet against the Bulls because I have no idea what I'm going to get. I think Denver comes out, plays with a lot of energy and effort in this game. This is one where I will take Denver. I will lay the points with Denver. This is at 7.5. I think that it probably closes closer to 8.5, closer to 9, especially with the way that the Bulls have been playing recently. So those are, how many games was that? I think that was 5 games. Like I said, we'll be back tomorrow to talk a little bit more NBA. I think it's one more I want to get into, though. Let's go with the Wizards and the Dallas Mavericks. So the Wizards will be in Dallas to wrap up a 6-game road trip. I didn't see anybody on the injury report outside of Malcolm Brogdon. And then Dallas, of course, will be without a lot of players. I know that they just got Hardy back in the last game, but from a bigs perspective, they're down a lot of bodies. This line is already moving from 11.5 to 12, though. So Bunny is coming in on Dallas early. The total isn't really moving a lot. I guess it is coming down 232 down to 231.5. And I guess I would agree with that as well. We always talk about watch the team total under, and it's been very, very profitable. This is one of the bottom 3 offenses, bottom 3 defenses in the NBA. And they're in a very, very uncompromising position here against the Dallas Mavericks. Like I said, this is a team that pretty much owns them. Dallas has won 3 straight in the head-to-head matchup, including a 137-101 victory in DC earlier on December the 5th. That the totals are actually flying up and over 8-2 last 10 games between these two teams. I mentioned this being the last game of a 6-game road trip for the Wizards. There's typically a major fatigue spot. Teams just can't wait to get back home after being on the West Coast and coming back home to the East Coast. The Wizards have lost 10 straight. They did cover against Phoenix as 14-point dogs, though, after failing to cover 3 in a row before that. Dallas just lost by 15 to the Boston Celtics. They're only 4-6 straight up and against the spread in their last 10 games as well. So where am I going to with this one? I'm going to a player prop, man. I'm looking at Daniel Gafford in this one. I think that this line moves as well. Daniel Gafford up and over his points prop. Points and rebounds I like a lot as well, but his points prop is 15.5. And it really just comes down to Gafford being one of the only bigs left. I mean, and when I say one of the only, I mean, it's only about one other person that you would consider a big on the Dallas Mavericks. Derek Lively, banged up, he's out. Dwight Powell didn't really play a lot anyway, he's out. Maxi Kleber just went down in the last game as well. So you look at Gafford, he's going to get the minutes. He's been playing pretty well. He's over his 15.5 points in 5 of his 8 games this season when he's played 28 minutes or more. And he's averaging 18 points in those games. Washington, we know what they are defensively. Last in defensive rating, they're 28th in points allowed in the paint. We know Gafford gets all of his points in the paint. They play at the 4th fastest pace through the Wizards, which should equal even more opportunities for the Mavs here in this spot. So I like Gafford, man. I do like Gafford a lot. I think that he should get to, probably 20 points in this game. He also scores about 16.5% of his points at the free throw line. And you got a Washington Wizards team that fouls at the second highest rate in the NBA as well. So points and rebounds up and over 25.5. Points by themselves at 15.5. I like them both. I really do like them both. The other thing I wanted to mention really quickly in this game is Kyle Kuzma. So last game I talked about fading Kyle Kuzma. I didn't play it, but I talked about that as a lean. Kyle Kuzma under his 15.5 points, I think it was. There was a quote. I put this in the Discord early. There was a quote that came out from Kuzma where he talked about, like just kind of bucking the trend, not really worrying about, the coaching staff trying to develop young players. He's like, bro, I gotta eat. I gotta get mine too. And Kuzma was very, very, I guess locked in. We'll just say locked in. He really went out there to shoot the basketball. He had really, really struggled a lot recently, but you could kind of see the shot attempts weren't there. Kuzma was trying to he was very, very proactive. His points prop is at 16.5. He shot the ball, I think, 24 times in the last game. 24. I think he was 12 for 24. He ended up finishing with I think he had 30 points in that game. His points prop is sitting at 16.5. He's over in 8 of his 9 games where he's taken at least 17 shot attempts this season. So I know Dallas has been playing some pretty good defense, but if Kuzma's going to, try to shoot that many shots, then I do think that he's live to go up and over his 16.5. It could be a very, very good buy low spot for Kyle Kuzma in this game as well. So those are the looks that I wanted to share with you guys on the show tonight. There is kind of one more I wanted to talk about. Let's go back real quick to Rockets and Celtics too. It's a little more digging I got to do in this one, but let's talk about it. So you got a Rockets team, which my rule with the Celtics is I never want to bet them after a win. I also don't really like betting them when they're coming from home to road either. And you got an injury report here. I didn't see anybody pop up for the Rockets, but we can see how that goes. On the Boston Celtics side, you got Al Horford listed as questionable, Derek White listed as questionable. We'll see if those guys end up playing or not. The Celtics probably got enough to win without them, but do they cover at 6.5-point favorites? My guess is no. Boston did go into Houston early this season, and they beat this Rockets team. You could say it's just a matchup thing if you want, because they have won 3 straight games. But the last one was earlier this month, January the 3rd, in Houston. The Boston Celtics mollywopped this Houston Rockets team. They beat them 109-86 as a 4-point favorite in that game. That game did go under the 221.5, and this total opened up very, very similar. 221.5, 222 is where it's at right now as well. So you got a Houston team that's actually playing some pretty good ball right now. Back-to-back wins against Cleveland. Just when we thought Cleveland couldn't, lose, they've lost 3 straight. First time all season, failed to cover all 3 as well. But for the Rockets, back-to-back wins against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I like this Rockets team, man. They play hard every single night. It's just a matter of if their shots are going to fall, in my opinion. But Ime Udoka, Coach Jamal Mosley, 2 coaches that always have their players ready to play. You really don't have to question the effort from them, whether it's just really about, in my opinion, they're going to cover as long as they can make enough shots. And their offense can become a little stagnant, which scares me just a tad bit. But like I said, back-to-back wins against Cleveland, second of a 4-game road trip. They're 8-2 straight up in their last 10 games, 6-3-1 against the number as well, and 7-2-1 to the over, because their offense has actually been clicking. Now, Boston, I mentioned them. I don't really like catching them when they're coming back home, especially if it's off a win. This is their first game back home after a 5-game Western Conference road trip. Major fatigue spot here as well. They've been playing a bunch of games in a bunch of days. They did beat Dallas by 15 as a 9-point favorite after losing outright to the Lakers and getting embarrassed on TNT on Thursday night. And then they got Chicago on Wednesday. So looking into the just what I just kind of talked about, this Boston team is 3-7 against the spread when they're traveling from road, when their last game was on the road and then they're coming back home. They've only covered 3 of those 10 spreads, 3-7 against the number. They're winning by an average of 2 points per game. If they won the last game, so if they're coming off a road winning their back home, they're 1-6 against the spread and 0-6 against the spread in their last 6. The only one that they covered was actually the first one of the season. Boston also just 8-15 against the spread as a home favorite this season. So the odds makers have set these lines really, really high, and Boston has not has not covered. Like I said, 8 for 15. If you place 22 bets and you only won 8, you're not doing well. And that's what Boston is right now as a home favorite this season. You look at this Houston team, you typically want to get them when they're catching points versus when they're laying. As a road dog, they are 5-3-1 against the number, good for 62.5%. They're 9-3 straight up, 9-2-1 against the spread, traveling from road to road. So if their last game was on the road and they're playing another road game, they typically bring it again. Like I said, 9-2-1 against the spread, 9-3 straight up. Houston also 6-3 against the spread as a road dog this season. Boston 10-13 against the spread in the first half as a home favorite as well. So maybe it's I misspoke. Houston is 6-3 ATS as a road dog in the first half. So maybe it's a Rockets first half spot, especially with Boston coming back home a little fatigued. That may be something that I end up adding to the card. We know for the full length of the game, Boston can get hot. This Rocket team can absolutely go cold at times, especially if Jalen Green isn't making shots and Sengun is, not being able to score down low against Kristaps Porzingis. But we'll see what the injury report does in this one, and then I'll end up. I think I will end up making a play. I do kind of like the Rockets, and I want to take the points with them for tomorrow. All right, so that is, I think, 6 games. We talked about Lakers and Charlotte. We talked about Detroit and we did not talk about Detroit and Cleveland. We'll talk about that one in the morning. Orlando, Miami. I like Orlando. Sacramento and Brooklyn. I like under. Memphis and New York. I got to do a little bit more digging in. Rockets, Celtics, Denver, Chicago, Washington, and Dallas. I like Gafford up and over. So yeah, that'll be it for the show today. I will do a quick recap before we get up out of here. Gafford, his points prop 15.5. It's available on BetMGM. I'm sorry, on Bet365. Also available on Caesars when I saw it. These are early lines, of course. The Orlando money line, like I said, you can kind of wait. If you lock it in at Bet365, you can get the early cash payout if they go about 20. So that's why I like to play lines that are super, super close. And then the Sacramento, Brooklyn, like I said, I do think that the total continues to go under. I think it continues to drop. So I did play under 221.5. And then I will lay the points with Denver tomorrow, minus the 7.5. Already see it moving to 8 on a couple books, and the total just continues to go up. I don't think there's anything wrong with a Denver team total to go over. I do think that they're going to be able to get to the paint, kind of impose their will, play with a lot more effort. And if Chicago wants to run, Denver's cool with it. Denver loves to run as well. So I like Denver, specifically team total up and over. Lean towards Charlotte plus the points. I'll see where that line moves, even though it's looked like it is coming down from the 6 to the 5.5. But I do lean towards Charlotte as well. And the rest of the games, like I said, we'll talk about tomorrow. So hopefully this video is helpful for you guys. Resources are all here that I use to handicap sports. If you're interested, there are referral codes in the description of the video. You guys can check them out. I will be live again, like I said, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. We'll talk about all of the games that I did not get to. There's a ton of games on the board, which is why, like I said, I wanted to do the show tonight. But it's some injury report stuff as well. So a couple of the games I did not look too deeply into because of the injury report. But like I said, hopefully the show was helpful, man. Best of luck on all your action for Monday. I'll catch you guys in the morning. I'm out.